Okay, so I just got done watching The Strangers Part 2, and this second installment inside this trilogy is either gonna make or break the franchise. So let's talk about it. But before we get into Chapter 2, let's talk about The Strangers Chapter 1. It felt like a watered down remake with none of the tension. Black characters, extremely predictable plots. The characters were very, very ignorant. So it actually essentially came off as a cash grab. That's how come Chapter 2 got delayed and reshot, from what I heard, because they wanted to make sure that Chapter 2 does grab people better than Chapter 1 did. And in my opinion, I think it did. This time with The Strangers Part 2, it leans more into like the stalker, creepy elements that the first one kind of was neglecting of. The camera work in this one and the sound design, they attempt to make it more sinister and suspenseful, so I give them props for that. With this one, what really caught me was the suspense that they added in this. They really did keep you on your toes. And the main character, which, you know, as Shirley Blossom from Riverdale, she held it down in this one. She was actually smarter. She was prepared, because this takes place right after Part 1 ends. Or, I think so? It seemed like it, but it kind of went through, I don't know. It takes place within the next, like, day or two from Part 1. So she's had time to think about it. And once it did start to happen again, where they found her, she became more aware, actually smarter, and actually was defending herself more than she did in Chapter 1. She was on fight or flight mode. They tried to give us more brutality in this one. I liked that they tried to, but it kind of wasn't more than expected. Because this is rated R. You're expecting to see more brutal kills, because Part 1, I still question why it was rated R. And Part 2, we got some good kills on screen, more than Part 1, so that's really the saving grace of this. I know this is a Part 2, but it still felt like it was missing a lot of elements that should have been going on in this film. And the first act of this movie, they try to actually do the same premise as Halloween 2 with Jamie Lee Curtis, and they didn't fail miserably, but they should have just not done that. Because the whole chase scene in the hospital was slightly entertaining, but to be honest, it was like the least entertaining part in this movie. The whole cat and mouse game with her and, like, you know, the three strangers. So it kind of felt watered down a bit. And the pacing for this movie, Part 2 is short. Part 1 was short. But this could have been, I can't say anything without saying Part 3, but Part 1 and 2 could have been just one whole movie, in my opinion. Because Part 2, they try to stretch it out to the hour and 36 minutes that it is, but it has its moments where they're just wasting time. There's scenes that should be seconds long and they stretched out to a few minutes. Like, example, not really a spoiler, but you see a character, you're freaking out about the character because you're like, oh, this character needs to, you know, get going. But the character just stops there. Like, the director's like, hold on, wait, you're going to be unalived. And it's dragged to a few seconds longer to the point that you think that why is he standing there like that so mindlessly? And then boom, gone. So I'm just like, that what? I was confused.
Extremely confused. You're confused, I'm fucking confused, bro.
There's moments that are dragged. This movie does feel longer than it actually is, and that kind of sucks. Because, yes, they have been stretching out certain scenes to make it longer, because it is, you know, an hour and 36 minutes, and they stretched so much to get to that length. But there's certain parts that they didn't really need to do that. There's dragged out parts. There's random awkward silence. And not the awkward silence like, oh, she's hiding from someone so she needs to be there, but just weird awkward silence that could be shaved down from 30 seconds to 10 seconds. There's some scenes in here that are like 5 minutes that could have literally been 45 seconds. And it's just, they take so much time to like really move with the characters. And if you hated the ending of Part 1, sheesh, you're gonna despise the ending of Part 2. Cause that was just, she, like I said, she's smarter, but that doesn't really change anything because just a lot of her choices are still very, very ignorant. But you guys tell me this, you guys thought part 1 was a mess, right? Did you expect part 2 to fix it? I kind of did, and it somewhat did in my opinion, but you guys comment and tell me how you guys feel about that because I have questions. But overall, The Strangers Chapter 2 is honestly a step up from Chapter 1, but that's not really saying much. It's more intense. I can admit that I jumped a few times. And the main character starts to make more, better choices. But the story still drags. The hospital scene was just a weak recreation of Halloween 2. And the killers have a backstory of one of the killers, and it really does feel like it's forced in here. Hopefully it actually connects better in Chapter 3. And the pacing was dragged out and it made it feel longer than it was supposed to. So for The Strangers Part 2, my rating for this is going to be a entertainment. Sorry I didn't actually review Part 1 in its own video, but I can give that rating, director apology needed, because Part 1 was a complete dumpster fire. That's how come I just wanted to just summarize it at the beginning of this video. So Strangers Part 2 is better than Part 1, but if we're comparing sequels, The Strangers Pray at Night is still the best sequel out of both of these. The vibes of The Strangers Pray at Night was better. The music, the cinematography, it was not a good movie. It wasn't really a great movie, but The Strangers Pray at Night was pretty decent for what it was. But this Part 2 wasn't as good as that. If you guys haven't seen The Strangers Pray at Night, go check that out. I know it was a sequel that was pretty slept on because people just liked the first original one. But look, I enjoyed that one. So if you guys have seen this movie, comment below, tell me how you guys feel. How do you guys feel about it being a remake? What do you guys feel about the original? What do you guys feel about the sequels? Just about the whole Strangers universe in general. Are you guys even excited for Part 3? So if you like my vibe, comment below, like and subscribe. And I'm James Hancock, signing off.